Hello, and welcome to another episode of Opolis Inc., our Modpack playthrough that has probably seen too much time in between episodes. So yeah, I hope you're all doing swell and well so far. As for me, well, I got a big-ass monument behind me, so yeah, doing pretty well. And without further ado, let's dive into another episode. So yeah, it seems like every other intro I'm having this little voice crack thing. I swear I'm an adult. I'm a man. I have a man voice. Anyways, a lot has happened in between episodes. In case that was not apparent just by kind of looking around the base, we've done quite a bit of building, adding new stuff, adding a new building specifically. One of which I'm not gonna lie to you, probably should have gone about 3 blocks wider on it, but we're here now, so it's gonna remain. We may build a bigger type temple. I was like, I'm missing the word for this thing. Yeah, we may build a bigger temple, excuse me, in the future, but the idea for this is pretty much going to remain the same, and that is the temple is going to house our ME controller, and as we get more of these and build it bigger, we'll rearrange this room. I'm actually not even going to set up the cable connections to this quite yet, because I do plan on making it a different shape in the end. So if you didn't know, you can actually connect controllers together to make a multi-block structure to where each controller face allows 32 inputs. So that's going to be our goal, and we're going to get into how exactly you can get a controller today and everything that I've done in between episodes. All right, so the way that we're going to work through this episode is we're going to go from the larger, maybe more apparent questions to the less large, maybe less obvious questions, or at least what I would, if I was watching the video, the questions that I would sort of be asking in chronological order, if that makes sense. So first and foremost, the pickaxe and the shovel that we have, you'll notice that they are very red, and they're Supremium. So they actually come from Mystical Agriculture. And, sorry, I don't know if you could hear me typing. It just felt like my typing on that was a little bit loud. Now, the thing with Supremium Tools is if we hover over them, you'll notice down below where it says the attack damage on the very bottom right there, it also says unbreakable. So without any enchantments on them, any extra hoo-ha, doodads, thingamajigs, these tools and this weapon is completely unbreakable, which means we can have it forever. Now, this really isn't difficult to get, especially once you have a sufficient farm, right? And obviously this down here is working very, very well. It's going very fast. We have the Supremium machine upgrade. It's getting a ton of Inferium, even though it is we're slowly starting to replace all of the Inferium with actual, resources, nether quartz, dye, uranite, fire, gold, you name it. If I've needed it at some point, I try to go ahead and make a seed. So as far as that goes, we have a lot more essences that are being built up, backed up, and used for various means. Some of these I need to start voiding off as well, as what I'm seeing here. So maybe we can go and do that. Do I have any void? I have 28. Okay, that'll do. Boom, boom, boom. I just want to void them so our system doesn't back up, because if it does, it'll start launching seeds everywhere, and trust me, that's not a pretty sight. Okay. So, seeds are made pretty simply. We've been through all this before. You just look it up, use whatever resource it's trying to tell you to use here, and you're good to go. Now, as far as the Inferium goes, we are sitting at about 100,000 right now. The drawer can hold about 6.3 million, so yeah, we still have quite a while before that fills up. And it's been obviously more than enough to get ourselves to Supremium. Now, the other thing I would recommend if you're trying to get yourself up to Supremium level tools and Supremium in general is to go ahead and make the Master Infusion Crystal. This will save you a lot as far as having to continuously remake those crystals, which can be annoying. They're not necessarily expensive, but They can certainly be annoying to have to constantly craft this over and over again, and it kind of does use a lot of diamonds if you're just making, you know, infinite amounts of them. This, however, 1 diamond, some Supremium, and you're good to go forever. And then I'd recommend at least getting auto crafting up to tertium. You don't have to go any higher than that, but if you can knock out like 1,000 tertium like this, it's going to be really beneficial, because now we're going to have, at some point during this episode, we'll have 1,000 tertium that end up getting crafted, and we'll go through that auto crafting system here in just a second, because again, it's rather simple, but it is one of those things that we did off camera. So that's pretty much mystical agriculture, how we got this. And for the actual recipe, you literally just upgrade the pickaxe or the shovel or whatever, you know, the given tool is through all of the ranges. So blue to red, orange to blue, dark green to orange, light green to dark green, and diamond into inferium. So you do need access to the diamond level equipment, which means, yeah, you need the advanced mining bucks. Obviously, we can't do this for an axe and a sword yet, because we've not got that level of bounty bucks, right? I believe it requires advanced. Yeah. And we've just not gotten that done. It requires slaying mobs with a specific sword and specific mobs to get it. And yeah, I haven't really been fighting that much. So let's hop on back down below here, and we'll take a snooze real quick. So fly on back up top here. This top structure is very much like the bottom structure for our mystical agriculture. The only difference is it's not going as fast. You can see it only has a blue machine upgrade, and the resources are more concentrated. So we have gold, redstone, diamond, and uranite. 4 resources that we use a whole lot of, and that I kept finding myself needing more and more of. Is this thing? No, it's not that filled up. Okay. So yeah, basically what this allows me to do is just go through all and any of the processes that I may need or want to do. So let's head on over to the next section, which is going to be, how do we use the essence from mystical agriculture to actually get items? Because if we take a look, a lot of the essences don't actually give you the item like as per the usual, right? So typically you would be able to arrange redstone essence in a little circle, and it would just give you redstone right back. However, that recipe has been taken out to where now this is the consistent recipe for getting resources from the mystical agriculture line. So the way this works is you take 18 of the essence, combine it with some molten stone, which you can get just by placing stone into the controller, and then you put the redstone essence in the solidifier, sorry, chamber, whatever you want to call it, and then boom, you get your redstone ore. And this works the same for everything. So let's take a look at bronze. Oh, you're just gonna make me wrong on bronze? All right, well, here's 10, 18 molten 10 ore. I think glowstone goes straight to it. So there's just different ones that kind of make you do this. Gold, right? Gold essence, molten stone, gold ore. And that whole process is basically being taken care of in this setup. So we have infinite diamonds, we have infinite redstone, and we have infinite gold all being produced. Starting at the very beginning of this whole line, we're going to break down exactly how we need to go through this, because another step has kind of been added, one of which I do have a slight qualm with, but we'll get into that. So essentially what we're doing is the first step of the process is to get these advanced mining bucks. Now, do we technically need them? No, we don't. You don't need them to make this thing work, because if you take diamond ore and you just smelt it, you can get a diamond that way. If you enrich it, you can get 2 diamonds, right? So you don't really need the first part of this setup, but I'm doing it so I can get more and more resources. And because, well, it wasn't as complicated whenever I first started it. However, over time, mechanics have been changed to make it a little bit more complicated. So technically, you don't need this combiner right here. You could just use an enrichment chamber, and it still gives you 2 diamonds per ore. The method that we're using gets us 3 diamonds, which is only 1 more. So obviously, this is a little complicated for just getting 1 more diamond or 1 more gold or 3 more redstone or whatever, given these resources are infinite anyways, right? Because we're growing them over there. So this whole setup here, this whole first left part, is to simply get infinite advanced mining bucks. This includes using a specialized lapis lazuli license and actually having infinite access to these. So this is a machine that I actually kind of have a qualm with. I don't have a qualm with the fact that now specialized license have to be put in here with an unbreakable one plus some of the resources, even though this is like even more of a setup just to get to a specialized license. The amount of items needed has been reduced down to 256, so that's kind of nice. But now you have to have this whole separate little automation circuit built within all of your automation circuits if you want to use specialized license, which, I mean, I don't know. You take it as good, take it as bad, do whatever you want to with it. Personally, I think having the specialized license just preemptively be unbreakable was kind of nice and made it to where you didn't have to have a huge headache and all this, that, and the other. But this is fine too because it's just one machine and it handles automation pretty well. That being said, it has a power buffer of 10 million FE. So the second that you hook this up to your power source, your network, it drains everything. It drains all the backup power from all of your generators. Any batteries you may have had storing power, zip, gone. It's just a lot of power and it doesn't use it. You know what I mean? Like once you have two licenses built up, one inside the chamber and one backed up in here, you're not making any more. So the fact that this has a 10 million FE buffer, it's just, at least for the license, it's unnecessary. And honestly, it's very wasteful because it means for every single one of these quantum compressors, you have to dump 10 million FE into it. Now, technically, you could say, okay, I have 100,000. Let me turn off power to it. But then you're going to attach it to your power just to disconnect it from your power just for the sake of making sure you don't drain all your power. It just seems a bit excessive to give it 10 million FE. And I get it that that's probably what the initial block has within the mod that it comes from, but I do think that it should be toned down in the sense to, I mean, even 1 million is fine, but 10 million? Like, you got to think about what stage of the game you're trying to get these specialized licenses going and what kind of power you should actually have. Now, speaking of power, we have upgraded to a reactor, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, dumping 10 million power is not a great idea or thought whenever you have typically been working with these advanced solar generators, which produce about 200 or maybe 100 actually, not even full 200. Because obviously I don't think we've ever gotten the max output here, but still, I mean, 80,000, only 80,000 stored up, which means between these four here, we have 320,000. That's nowhere near 10 million. I don't even want to try and tell you how, long that took to fill it all the way up. Obviously not forever, but it is something. So slight little complaint about that. As far as the process goes, it is pretty simple, and he does go through in the Modpack and explain basically how you need to get this to work, because it is a little new. So if we take a look at, here's the Lapis license, right? We just saw that. You have to have the unbreakable license that's associated with it, right? So advanced mining for Lapis, because that's what we get. You put in your items, 256, and boom, get your license. And this goes for everything, right? So if I want to make, sorry, I clicked on that the wrong way. Unbreakable basic storage, 256 chest, and then you have the specialized chest license. I don't know why you would want to do that, given there's the specialized wood license, which gives you the same resources, but yeah, I digress. So moving on over into power. We finally got the reactor, which is honestly probably the biggest achievement. And the way that you do this is by buying the reactor starter using elite power bucks. Now you need 36 of these reactors, so you technically have to buy this 9 times, so you need 18 elite power bucks in total. And you can get these elite power bucks by making a blazing capacitor. Now, blazing capacitor is not very difficult to make. You simply need some blazing crystal, dielectric paste, which we've been over, and some basic capacitors, which again we've been over. The blazing crystal can be automated with mystical agriculture, and the blazing essence doesn't have to have any sort of automation process thereafter. You just put it in a little circle, and you get your blazing crystal back. So that is definitely going to be your best bet as far as how you can go through and just get a ton of this stuff and get a ton of power bucks, right? So you can just make a lot of blazing crystal after you leave it there for a little bit, obviously. And then, you know, you just go and take that, sell it into the market, get all of your elite power bucks, and then come back and buy your setup. As far as what else they buy, you can also buy a gas burning generator, which I don't think comparatively it's on the same level of the reactor. We've not bought the nuclear license because, again, I was trying really hard not to get too far ahead of y'all, but may have ended up happening a little bit anyways. That's fine. So yeah, Power, and this I don't really feel bad about getting ahead on, because Power is something that we've been through a million times across a million playthroughs, and obviously that's a bit exaggerative, but point is, we've done it a lot of people have covered it, so it's not something too foreign. Uranite actually can also be automated through mystical agriculture, so a lot of the setup for this machine is preemptively done. And I do actually need to go through and make ice today. That might be what we work on. Did I put it in here? I did. Because right now we're not using any kind of coolant, and that would obviously make it more efficient. Right now it's generating about 15,000, but it can generate up to 25,000 FE per tick, which obviously at this stage in the game is pretty good for us, right? It maintains pretty much everything. Now the other huge benefit of Power and getting into Power is going to be this right here, the Ender Cell, which allows you to wirelessly transfer power. Or power, however, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, you get an ender cell, which are made pretty simply, and especially since blazing crystals, again, you can grow them. You get an ender core, which is just an Eye of Ender, dielectric casing, basic tiny capacitor. Eye of Ender, really easy to get as well, since we do already have our blaze farm up and going. If you don't, just get some blaze powder. Obviously, ender pearls are pretty easy to get in this mod pack, given you can mine them out of the ground, and you'll have your Eye of Ender. Throw this into an energizing orb, and you get your ender core. This is going to allow you to not only make the ender cells, but also the gates that actually transfer the power. So the way this works is you set up an ender cell. It will need at least one battery in it to sort of give it some storage, because typically the ender cell comes down and can't store any power. So obviously it's pretty useless. Go make yourself a basic starter battery, or basic or hardened blazing. Any of these batteries will work. You shift click the battery in, and it will increase the capacity of the ender cell. From there, you just need to make yourself an ender gate, which is pretty easy, right? Make some cables, all this stuff surrounding. You will need a lot of obsidian for this, and it's nighttime. Let's go. With that all done, all you got to do then is take your ender gate and slap it on something, and it should be good to go. So let's see. I thought I had an ender gate. Oh, there it is. So right here is the little bitty ender gate, and it's just powering our ME system anytime that these advanced solar generators or the bio generator, which is actually completely empty now, happens to go out of power. Obviously, for the most part, these advanced solar generators kind of do the job, but it is nice to have a backup buffer whenever we basically need it. So that is Power, roughly explained. Again, we've done it a ton of times, so I'm not going to go through everything with it, because it is pretty self-explanatory. It's explained in the mod pack, and it's explained across several series. So the player transmitter does pretty much what you would expect it to do, and transmits power to you. So this is how we're actually keeping our armored free runners completely full up on energy. And you'll see, even if I activate them here by taking some fall damage, they drop in energy and then they immediately refill. You can see in the very bottom left there, 2, 5, 6, and then goes right back to it. So that's this whole little setup, and eventually we'll probably put it somewhere else, and we'll upgrade this to Niotic, which is Spirited, sorry, which is the next level, and it can start producing. See, it's 25,000 now. It goes up to 100,000. So 4 times as much power. And then, of course, whenever we get to the Nitro, it can produce 500,000, which is just absolutely insane. My plan is to get a couple of these, maybe like 4 reactors. And I think I'm going to place them in a building across the riverside there. But yeah, that should handle all of our power needs for the foreseeable future, basically. Right now, I mean, 25,000 FE is good. but I can certainly use 25,000 FE. It's not that difficult. Like I said, once we get our ME system fully up and running, it will use a lot of power as well, just due to having all of the storage buses and exporters, importers, all that kind of stuff sort of linked into it. So we are going to end up needing a lot of power. Just for right now, you know, where we're at, it's fine. So that's Mystical Agriculture explained. That is Power explained. And let's go through the quest book, because we did a fair amount of this. I went through and got up to basically the ultimate farming bucks, which I think we did that on camera. But again, it's been a little bit, so there's nothing wrong with that. We are ready to go into the Nether. I've not actually done any sort of deep diving into this, and this is probably our weakest point in this mod pack, is mob killing and dimensional exploration. Mostly been focused on automation, and I mean, for a good reason. Once you get Mystical Agriculture up and you have that power and creative flight and all this kind of stuff, going back and going through the different dimensions just becomes kind of a breeze. So I do things like this. I know a lot of times people will go into the Nether with just diamond armor and iron armor, and like that's fine, that's cool, you do you. But if I can have creative flight and the best armor and the best tools whenever I go to a dangerous situation, well, I think that's better in the end, right? So moving on down to AE2, primarily what I did off camera was this intro crystal into the elite storage into the ME controller. Basically this bottom line here, right? Because we did the top line on camera last time with the ME drive and everything else. So we're basically just going to go through this line and I'll explain it bit by bit. So if you do happen to have any questions about any individual quest, or quest, hopefully they can be answered here. So Skystone dust, you can get this by crushing Skystone. Of course, Skystone, you can literally grow it with Mystical Agriculture, and this is what the mod pack wants you to do. So pretty simple there. Intro seed, you just combine that Skystone dust with redstone, ender dust, sand, and glowstone dust. Ender dust can be made just by crushing ender pearls, and again, you can get ender pearls from mining them from the dirt. From that, you just combine the intro seed with a fluix block to get yourself a budding, fully introized fluix block. And then you don't have to put it next to a growth accelerator, but it does speed up how fast the crystals actually grow. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Phone call from the wife. So where were we at? Intro, right. Budding, fully introized crystal. So let's go ahead and run through this process real quick, just so y'all see basically exactly what it looks like. So intro, what? Oh, I'm not in here, right? Intro seed, what? Oh, it keeps putting me back to here. I was like, why does that keep happening? All right, well, let's try it from in here. What are we missing? Ender dust. Let's go ender. Should be pretty simple to get this crushed down. Sorry. Little midair pause. Crusher. And I think it just said we needed 2 more of these, so throw this in here real quick. 1 and 2. Should be good. All right, so if I go in here, go back to this intro, boom, and then we just have to make ourselves a fluix block. Make 2 of those. Put them in there, and there we have it. Now, you can just place this down normally and it will grow crystals, but with the growth accelerator beside it, and you can put more growth accelerators if you really want to, you can see it grows pretty quickly. Now, I do recommend using a pickaxe that has fortune on it, because fortune does affect your drops from these crystals here. But essentially, you're just going to wait for them to grow fully. Go ahead and throw this one on this side if we want to. And you can see as these crystals sort of bud out, now the block is becoming less introized. I hope I'm saying that properly. So this one is still fully, this one is about half. And if we break this intro cluster, we will get an intro crystal. And that's our next piece. From there, you put it into the crusher, you get your intro dust. And then you can put your intro dust with some gold and a lapis lazuli, sorry, gem or whatever, piece in some water, and you'll get yourself the intro infused ingot. And there's our 1000 tertium completed. You can also put this in the crystal assembler, but in order to get the crystal assembler, you need the intro infused ingots to begin with. So initially you will just have to throw it into water. Anyways, from there, like I said, you get your ingots from throwing the dust in to the thingamabobber. You take 8 of these intro infused ingots, surround a 1K storage cell, whether it's fluids or chemicals or items, doesn't matter. And then boom bam, you have your license. Now, for the elite license, you can sell 16K ME storage components, which we already went over and I've explained. Not too expensive, honestly. And you get 8 elite storage bucks from this. Or you can sell 6 intro infused ingots. Now, given the whole process that I just showed you with how to get the intro infused, I think it's pretty simple which one is going to be better and a bit easier to do, and that's going to be the storage bits. I think personally, that's my my take on it. So if we make a couple here, and let me see if I have the elite license on me. I do, because there's actually something I would recommend. Sure, you can just throw this up here and say, oh well, okay, we got lucky that time, but throw those 2 in. Sure, you can throw this up here and say, okay, I need 3 of them, let me throw 3 in. But as you just saw, sometimes it'll say you only need 2. Sometimes it'll say you need... Well, come on, don't do this to me now. Sometimes it'll say you need 4, basically. My recommendation, wait till it says 2, throw them in. Then just keep doing it. Oh, that time it says we only need 1. Right on. 3... Nope, not going to cut it. 3... Maybe he lowered the numbers, but it was like 2 to 4 that it was reliably doing. So yeah, there we go. Then we need 1. So we're already up to 40 elite storage bucks, and I think it takes 64 to get an ME controller. So, and that's pretty much the only thing these bucks are used for. You can use them in the inscriber to get more circuits out of it, but I mean, that's just kind of an efficiency thing, not really a progressional thing. So that is how we got to the ME controller. And I think that was another question. Some people may be saying that should have been the first question answered, but, you know, it is what it is. I really do like this temple, by the way. The only thing I don't like is, yeah, I think I should have made it literally like 1, 2, 3 wider on each side. So that would have really helped. Now, we actually do need to specifically kill hostile mobs with our iron sword, even though our Supremium Tools will one-shot them. The reason for this being is we need to get, well, something we didn't get there. Well, we need to get the advanced bounty license. And obviously, if I'm not slaying mobs, then it's going to be a little hard to do. Which brings me to another point that is fine, and I understand the reasoning for it, but it is a little weird, right? Now, my Supremium Tools do 22 attack damage. My sword does 6. So obviously I have a preference in which tool I want to use. However, if we want to get the advanced bounty fragment, it has a 50% chance to drop from hostile overworld mobs killed with an iron sword specifically. So I have to use an iron sword to get this. Same on down the line. In order to get the elite, we have to take nether mobs, which is not going to be very difficult because we have a blaze spawner behind us. And we have to use a diamond sword. And then to get to tier 4, we have to slay end mobs with a netherite sword. So even though I have tools and weapons that are stronger, better than, you know, what it's wanting me to use, I still have to go through this method of using lesser tools to get these bounties sort of completed. Now, once we have the bounty license, we're good to go. We just got to sell, you know, random mob drops back to it. Same for this. And that shouldn't be that difficult because, you know, obviously making those is not very hard. However, I have been working on trying to get mystical agriculture stuff up and going as far as doing mob drops, and it is a little bit difficult when you don't have any kind of solid mob spawning apparatus. So that being said, there are a couple of spawners that I found in the world. We just need to go get them, and in order to get them, I need Silk Touch, and in order to do that, I either need an enchanting setup where I just get lucky, or You can also use mystical agriculture to get silk touch. Okay, so if we go silk touch right here, you can use experience essence plus slime ball, but the experience essence requires these experience capsules. And yeah, they take quite a long time to get filled with experience points if you're not just sitting there grinding it out. Now, there is also the silk touch upgrade from Simply Quarry, and I used that in order to get ourselves the ice, right? I just went to a frozen biome all the way down here where you can see our little claimed spot is. Put down some water, let it freeze over. Then I took the quarry, placed it down, and let it mine up the ice with silk touch inside. So that's a pretty good way to sort of pseudo have silk touch, but I don't know if it'll work on spawners the same way. So I've been a little bit hesitant to try that, needless to say. But there are 2 spawners over there in the ice biome that I would like to go get so we can start spawning some monsters and mobs and try and make these bounty fragments a bit easier to get, basically. So that is one thing that I haven't really been advancing on and progressing with, and it's just because I don't really slay mobs that often. I tend to stick to the automation side of things, as many of you will know. So moving forward, we're going to be getting into the crystal assembler and getting into matter condensers, singularities, all this kind of stuff with basically the end game of mystical agriculture and applied energistics 2. That's kind of the end game for farming and computers. For mobs and power, we have to go do some trial stuff. We have to get into nitro crystals, and we even have to get into some nuclear waste type stuff. So another area we need to get into is actually mining in the nether. We just need to take some quarries out there, set them up, and let them run through, because we need to get some of these elite mining fragments so we can move on with the mining bucks. But yeah, I mean, we don't really necessarily have to buy the netherite pickaxe and the osmium shovel and all that, because we already have it. So basically, a lot of our progression towards the end of this pack is going to be simple as far as difficulty, right? Simple, but complicated as far as I have to use an iron sword to kill a zombie to get a fragment. I have to use a diamond sword to kill a blaze to get a fragment. I have to use a netherite sword to, you know. And so it's just going to be a lot of this, like, checking back and forth kind of thing. We will be setting up more automation within this pack, but I think a lot of it is handled with mystical agriculture. So with all of that being pointed out, explained, and kind of pushed out of the way, that is most of what I wanted to talk about for today's episode. I didn't really plan on doing any, I guess, forward progression, because I did need to talk about so much of our backward progression that we've done in between episodes. Also, I apologize about my voice. It sounds like it's kind of going out. And yeah, I've tried cough drops, lots of water, honey, you name it. I don't know why my voice is like, you will not get through an hour recording today. So if you hear any voice cracks or whatever, we're just going to let that shit fly for the rest of the video, because I'm tired of muting myself, honestly. It's happened way too often. So moving over here, there are a couple notes about this whole little setup, and I wanted to actually fully dive into how it works, because just looking at it and seeing, see, there you go, isn't really helpful. So I do want to get into how this whole thing works and how I'm able to do 3 of these resources at once. So solidifiers and controllers can share fuel tanks. So you'll see here we have 1 fuel tank with lava, 1 fuel tank with water. And if we take a look at the controller, this one has lava, and this one has lava, and this one has lava. And obviously this should not be linked into there. Let's see here. Oh, fluids. There we go. So yeah, there's only 1 fluid tank, but they all have lava. Same thing works for the water with the solidifying. So water just helps things to cool off faster, as, well, many of us already know. And then all we need is an infinite supply of stone, which we have from our resource generators here, right? Being pumped into a backup chest. The stone goes into the controllers, smelts down into molten stone, which then gets pumped up into the solidifier. Now this happens automatically from the controller to the solidifier. The stone is automatically transferred, so we don't have to worry about that. And then, yeah, up top, we just have a couple of ender drawers set to each respective material, pumping in the essence. And that's basically it. From there, the essence comes out, goes into the combiner, which has an infinite supply of elite or advanced storage bucks, gets processed and outputted. So it's nice, but again, you don't need this whole left side of it. This whole left side is just, it gives you infinite advanced mining bucks, which in the early on can be good. It gives you Fortune 1. It can give you, more specifically from the shop, the stuff you need for your quarrying, all the upgrades, not all the upgrades, but some of the upgrades, some efficiency, some silk touch, all that kind of stuff. So advanced license or advanced bucks are going to be definitely useful. It's just, I don't think I needed to do this whole automation setup, but again, this was easier to do before we had to add in a whole nother step to it. Yeah, this whole setup down here is kind of like my big experiment. Unnecessary, unneeded, but kind of nice if you do have it. And then this, I mean, I just want the automation to look better. Right now, to automate resources through this means, which I think is supposed to be like the recommended means or the route that he wants you to take, there's too many like inputs and outputs. So you always like are going to have this jumbled mess of pipes. There's no way to get around it unless you use a quantum entangle porter. But using a quantum entangle porter for each individual one is like, that's ridiculous, right? I'm going to go ahead and apologize for all the jumping around we're going to have to do in this video today. But yeah, so there's no like a laser IO or XNet or any of that kind of stuff to really allow you to manage multiple inputs and outputs from the same side. So you're always going to end up with this, where you have just a ton of cables and pipes coming out of and going into, because you're going to want the water to cool things off. You're going to want the lava because it has to power things up. You have to have the molten stone coming into the controller. And of course, you have to have the essence coming into the solidifier and the result being pulled out. So like, that's fine if it was automating one thing, but the fact that this is how you have to do every single resource from mystical agriculture in order to get it over here is just a bit excessive, because it means that for every one of these, you need water, lava, stone, and full automation of the entire system with enough pipes to send it into everything. So it just feels like a lot. And if you don't double up on tanks, then you need a ton of tanks, one-to-one it, you know? I don't know. I just wish there was a better looking setup for this, but I can't think of one because, again, we don't have laser IO. Everything has to literally be inserted into or exported out of using pipes. So if anyone has a better system for this or knows a better way of using the solidifier and everything to make resources, I am all ears. Now, that being said, obviously having infinite diamonds and infinite gold and infinite redstone does make progression pretty easy through the pack, and that's primarily what we've been focused on, is getting through all the automation stuff, and then, like I said, going back and slaying mobs and all that kind of becomes a bit more trivial. My ultimate goal right now is to get the mystical agriculture armor, specifically, obviously, the Supremium. And then I would like to get the creative flight, which is somewhere in here. But this is going to require us to have nether stars, and of course nether stars is going to require us to fight the nether and all that kind of stuff. Or, whoa, what? Interesting. All right, so yeah, that's kind of going to be my goals over the next little bit with this mod pack. We are going to go ahead and call it on this video, because I don't know if you've heard me during this thing, but I sound terrible. Absolutely terrible. My voice is going out. I keep having to cough, which is, yeah, again, probably like sinus related. I have like a lot of mucus, which you don't need to know, and it's kind of gross. But the facts are the facts. So I do apologize for how long it's been in between episodes for this series. There's just been kind of some complications. I did have this pack crash on me like 3 or 4 times. I'm not sure if it was mystical agriculture doing it or applied energistics or what, you know, where the problem came in, but I had it crash on me several times. I would call it several, 4 times. Anyways, so that kind of hindered some of our progress and hindered me wanting to get back into this pack and like try and record, because I really hate trying to record and then having a crash happen mid gameplay. So we are still playing this pack. We are still trudging through it and trying to get to the end. I say trudging, and that kind of has negative connotations. We're briskly walking through it. Briskly? Is that a word? I feel like that's a word. It's got to be a word, right? But yeah, I do feel like the pacing with this pack is a little funky, just because you need the storage bucks and license, or not just the storage, but you need all of the bucks and license. But some of them you need a lot of, but most of them you only need a certain amount of in order to progress. So it's like, you don't really need to automate things for the large majority. Like, you don't need to automate 16K storage components in order to get elite storage. You know what I mean? If each one of these gives you 8 and you only need 64, then you only need 16 of these. So you shouldn't really be automating for that. You don't really need the specialized license, because you're not going to be trying to get a ton of elite storage bucks just to get yourself infinite ME controllers. And obviously this is more efficient, but you don't really need it. So you kind of go through this point where you're like, okay, I'm just getting to a milestone in order to get to the next milestone. And you don't actually stay at any one milestone for too long. So I like the pack, but it feels like it's a push and pull tug of war of, do I want to automate / do I need to automate, or is this just kind of a stepping stone? And so far, every time I've automated something, minus mystical agriculture, it came back that I didn't really need to automate it like that, you know? Like, all this was kind of pointless, kind of useless. This is kind of nice, specifically the storage bucks, but like the rest of this, I don't really use that often. Which is sad to say, but it is the truth. So I don't know. I want to automate more in this mod pack, but I want to feel like I need to automate. Does that make sense? So anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Sorry for my rant and ramble in this episode. I do really enjoy this mod pack, and no negativity towards the creator. I know it's very hard to make a mod pack, and especially one that has like a whole different kind of economy and progressional type system to it. So yeah, huge shout out to BenBenLaw, and I think it's Zoro. Let me know if I'm saying your name wrong there. Exalted Zoro, I think is what it is. But yeah, huge shout out to them for even making this mod pack, trying to get through all the complications and logistical nightmares that I know dealing with all these individual bucks has to be. It is a very fun mod pack, but it is difficult to balance everything around this monetary system and progressionally, like automation and everything. So I feel for you guys. I know this cannot be an easy mod pack to try and get through and balance and everything. That being said, I do still highly recommend it, and if you like the mods that are present, well, they certainly do allow you to deep dive within some of these mods that I typically don't. So thanks everybody for watching this episode today. Sorry for all the breaks, cuts, jumps, all that kind of stuff. It's just because, again, I end up coughing, and then I'm like, well, let's cut that out. And yes, I've tried cough drops, so you know, I got you. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel the need to do those things. I do hope you all stay safe, stay awesome, stay crafting. I am rushing this outro because, well, I'm just tired of pausing, muting myself, all that kind of stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, stay safe, stay awesome, stay crafting. Until next time, you beautiful, beautiful people. Peace out.